Well, Dan, it's good to be talking to you. We've known each other for a while now,
We
and
have.
I think today you're going to tell me about how code should always be smaller. It doesn't need to be very verbose, and let's see,
Well,
it doesn't it needs to be very concise.
it's interesting you say that because I was thinking about that. And when we talked about this a little bit in the pre-talk, we talked about sort of ethics and how ethics is an important part. I believe that I can tell a lot about a person's ethics by their code because
Yeah,
you don't write code for yourself. Uh,
absolutely.
in the same way that you don't clean your house for yourself.
Right.
And other maintenance things that you do, you're doing them for the general body, the people who have to
Hmm.
live with it. In your
Hmm.
house, it's just your family who has to live with the stuff that you do. But, out in public, if you see trash, if you're an ethical person and there's a trash can, you pick up trash and you put it in the trash can. Or, if you're driving down a road and there's a branch across the road, you would get out of your car and move the branch. We all do those things to be good citizens. Software has a lot to do with that. You're not writing software for, you're not writing software just to get a task done.
Right.
You're not
Right.
writing software as a way to provide yourself with job security.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people who write software in a manner that they're the only ones who can maintain it.
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely. I've seen that.
so, uh, in my opinion, that's very unethical. And one of the interesting things about that, so some people I work with in another foundation had commissioned some software from other people, and they'd ask me, and part of me being ethical was saying, I don't have the bandwidth to do this in a way that's good for you. I could write some software that would get this job done this time, but you guys wouldn't be able to maintain it. And it wouldn't be adaptable enough that you didn't need something else in 2 years.
Right.
So this is what you should ask for. And they went out and they found another contractor who did a pretty good job, but the the people who bought the software didn't know enough to say it has to be turnkey, right?
Hmm.
At
Hmm.
the end at the end when you guys are done, you should be able to give me instructions and I get the and the website is online and I can run it.
Sure.
As opposed to what they got was they got a GitHub repository that had a bunch of code in it that probably runs, but well, and they saw demos of it running. They're like, "Oh, this is great," but then the people said, "Well, you have to put this up in your own AWS system or host it yourself, et cetera," and that's a different thing.
Sure.
So uh, a lot of ethics in software is understanding that your software is for more than just yourself. And so as a result, for me, and this is one of the things that we talk about a lot, when you write code, you should be writing your code for other people to read it. There's this thing that we've talked about before, Larry Wall's three virtues.
Hmm.
And he has the three virtues of great programmers: hubris, which is pride. You should be so proud of your work that you want other software engineers to look at it so they can appreciate your genius. You have to be that prideful in your work.
Sure.
Uh, and if your code is hard to read, they're not going to be able to appreciate it. And software engineers know when something is overly complicated because we've all written it that way at one point in time or another. We're like, and then if you're a good engineer, as well as an ethical engineer, you'll go back and you'll space it out. And this is actually one of the places where AI has been a phenomenal code assistance is
Mm.
after I write something, I look at it, I'm like, this isn't super clear. Can you reformat this code and add in some comments so that a non-technical person would be able to read the code and understand what's happening? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got that. They're
Absolutely.
really
I've
good
I've
stuff
used
like
it
that.
that way as well. I've found that to be one of the ways that it can be helpful. Yeah, and because I do find that the first pass on any of my code, I know the least of I know the least about my system when I start coding, right? Like when you start, you don't know all the edge cases. You don't know what the problems are going to be. You kind of discover that along the way. So your initial picture of what this architecture needs to look like is wrong. It's necessarily wrong if you're going to
Right.
find different problems along the way that you need to correct. And so by the time you're done, you have weird patterns that you thought you might need to implement, and you need to dig in and you need to suss that out. You need to get it cleaned up. You need to sort it out. You need to cut out the stuff that doesn't need to be there. I constantly write code that doesn't need to be there. An extra watcher, an extra computed value. I'm working in front
Right.
end and Vue a lot, so these things that are just like they don't need to exist, and so you go in and you clean them up and you make it so the next person who looks at it, and the next person who looks at it might be you in 6 months. And
Exactly.
believe you me, you will forget what that code looked like 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna go back and you go, what even is this? So it's not
100%.
even just for somebody else, it's for future you, which might as well be somebody else.
100%. Yeah. Commenting is for other engineers and for yourself. And especially, this is an interesting thing because I think I have no idea on the statistics, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say many engineers, many software engineers are solo proprietors at this point in time. They're working by themselves. They're not working with a team. They're not checking into a project. They're not checking into a project with other people where other people are checking out their code and
Mm-hmm.
writing stuff on it and stuff like that. And that is unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
because there is a real lesson to be learned from working with other people.
Yeah.
And we went back and we talked about, the first of the three virtues, which is pride. Uh, most software engineers secretly think at this thing, I'm better than anybody else. I am the best. We've all met the real superstar engineers. Unless you are one of them, unless you really are a Zuckerberg, right? Zuckerberg's
Sure. What do
coding
they call them?
was
10Xers usually?
exactly. 10x is exactly that. That's the technical term. Um, unless you're a 10xer, and if you are, those guys, and you know that they're amazing at the stuff that they do, and that's great. Everybody's got a piece. It's important as we learn in working, and one of the things we learn working as a team of software is that everybody's good at something, and finding a way to distribute that. And a lot of engineers learn that pretty quickly just through the simple stuff of, you know what, I'm not a front end guy, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a back end guy, or I'm not a database, let me say person. So I'm not using a sexist term there. They are aware of their limitations because it's true. Nobody's good at it all. And understanding that part of it makes you happier to be in a team. Now, I say that in a place where, I'm CTO of a company, but on the side, I'm doing a lot of software projects. And in those software projects, I'm the only person.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So like I haven't been doing as much on the side lately, but a buddy of mine, my best friend, really works at the same company as me, and he does a lot of stuff on the side. A lot of stuff where he's really into tabletop games, especially trading card games,
Yep.
and he's creating. He's joining these groups of people who they are tabletop game developers who are making brand new content, and he's building them these little systems that help them have a digital place to display their stuff and to have their community grow. And he's doing that for them. And, he's the only developer on it.
Yep.
And he does a lot of that stuff. So even though his 9 to 5 is working with other people, I would say a majority of his projects, not maybe the majority of his time, but the majority of his projects, he's the only guy. And I've been like that a lot in the past. And I totally understand what you mean. Even when you're working with a team,
Yep.
most of the time the developer also is working mostly on projects by themselves, or the
Right.
quantity of projects.
Right. And you come into a really excellent point, which is, I always tell people on teams that I'm working with, I'm like, we're in software engineer, but our department is not actually technology. It might say that on the company thing, something like that. But what we really are is customer support.
No, absolutely.
Because fundamentally, our job, and somebody just wrote this, and it was genius. Who was it? I'm not going to remember who it is. It's a mutual friend of both of ours,
Hmm.
and she's a project manager. And she wrote, she's like, I finally was able to explain to my grandmother what I do. Uh, and she said, I make the unclear clear.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, that is what a great project manager does, is that you have this foggy idea of what you want, and the engineers have a foggy idea of what they want to do. And,
Mhm.
there's the famous cartoon of the swing on a tree. Are you familiar with the one that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. It's what the customer wanted, how the, project manager designed it, what the engineers built, et cetera, et cetera. And there's
Yep.
all this confusion. And a great project
You get
manager.
a plank, you get just a rope, you get a
Exactly.
tire, you get two tires, you get interlinked tires. Like,
Exactly. You get a swing where one rope goes here and one rope goes here, and the tree trunk is in the middle of where the swing would go,
yep.
all this crazy stuff.